Bertrand Russell was born in 1872, was a British philosopher, logician, mathematician, historian, writer, social critic, political activist and Nobel laureate. At various points in life, Russell considered himself a liberal, a socialist and pacifist. Russell was born in Monmouthshire, in one of the most prominent aristocratic families in the United Kingdom. We have to take into account that at that point in history, the world was suffering important changes such as the Industrial Revolution in England and the development of science. A brief definition of the Industrial Revolution is this: it was the transition to new manufacturing processes. This transition included going from hand production methods to machines. On the other hand, the early century in science and technology involved some significant events, such as aeronautics, chemistry, earth sciences, exploration, genetics, mathematics, photography, physics, and psychology. In 1901, Russell rounded 30. He was married to Ollie Purcell Smith, the love of his youth, which always thanked for having made possible condition of family life that allowed him to work with full capacity. He belonged, as everybody knows, an aristocratic English family of proven liberal tradition directly related to circles of political power. Apparently, and only apparently, he had an emotional and economic stability and a social position by birth. After overcoming the loneliness of his childhood in Pembroke, he entered the University of Cambridge, whose result presaged a political or academic career of his rank. Thus, at this point in life of the young lord, even tragedy not had learned in his unless in a conscientious way. Russell entered the century in total cynic with it. The novelty of the new time will reflect much of his intellectual work. Two intense and painful experiences took place in his life. Discovered that he didn't love Ollie and witnessed the agony of Evelyn Whitehead. The first left him again dramatically alone. The second was only with the problem of death. Both returned to his radical loneliness, and from there to an objectification of the world in existence. The writing that realized that experience was a free man worship. Personal tragedy was raising the ultimate questions about life and its end, death. In the trial, he made very clear that he was trying to, on one hand, to characterize the position that Western men had submitted to their destination, and on the other hand, wanted to show the ability to adopt an attitude to death, and very different from the religious problem solution. The issues will be handled later by my colleagues, but in short, Russell tries to show passivity and submission against. The book begins with a Mephistophelical myth of background, and is a Platonic view of the myth of the cavern. Russell understates the taxes pointing the slavery in which the historical man found. The scene in which summarizes the myth describes a Mephistophelic cartoon starring a cruel god had made that heavy praise without end of the choice of angels that was found to receive undeserved praise and be worshipped by those who torture. The drama consists of the espousing attitudes with which Western man has faced with his destiny, the ideal Stoic and Christian. Basically, the first characterizes it as those who say there's a design that is hidden in the universe if we could unravel it, and it is good. And the man decided that God had intended that chaos arouse thanks to the efforts of human harmony. So in Platonic interpretation, the location of the slave Russelliano along the history had been that of the man who had given up the fight against it before a crazy and monstrous world.
It's supremely important to clarify that this text was written in an age in which many changes were brought thanks to technology. Due to that society had to choose what was the best to believe in, I meant they had to struggle against two ideologies, the first one, science, and the second, the predominant religion. Thus, Russell apparently wanted to elucidate that perfect world, invented by man but spread through beliefs, which may be considered a cant, that affects the weak beings and benefits the strong ones. Thus, mind creates God, all-powerful and all-good, the mystic unity of what is and what should be. This is a Russell phrase which expressed best the idea of God. As it was aforesaid, man invented God to answer all the mysteries that were surrounding them. Additionally, these ones were gifted with knowledge to differentiate good and evil. Nonetheless, they kept caught by the nature's power, so men prefer worshipping their wild gods to attain calm, instead of understanding that this world is not the same as the world of ideas. Such also is the attitude of those who, in our own day, base their morality upon the struggle for survival, maintaining that the survivors are necessarily the fittest, but others, not content with an answer so repugnant to the moral sense, will adopt the position which we have become accustomed to regard as especially religious, maintaining that, in some hidden manner, the world of fact is really harmonious with the world of ideals. Moreover, Russell explains the Western Stoics' vision about how men have understood life and accepted changes by calling them fate. Additionally, Russell calls those men savages, for they don't have anything else in which believe than power. Consequently, that struggle for power keeps the spark of domination, pain, and suffering. Russell also saw a problem which is going through strength or kindness. This one will be solved below. All those previous fragments taken from Russell's essay, along with our own interpretation, were just an attempt to communicate better the Russell's ideas, because thanks to him we can understand how important freedom is for humankind, and at the same time we can elucidate how and why religion has taken advantage of all those who only believe in power, as Russell said. I guess now it's possible to clarify why all those religious wars have taken place, because they have justified their actions by using moral. Russell also saw a problem which is going through strength or kindness. This one will be solved below.
Now, we propose some questions to clarify Russell's ideas in his test of free man's worship. First, since a religious perspective, do you feel that believing God controls our actions? And second, what is the purpose of human life if we are just the product of natural forces? To answer this question, according to Russell say, we can to underline some main ideas. Firstly, the power of nature over man. Russell supposed that the life of man, viewed outwardly, is but a small thing in comparison with the forces of nature. In this sense, we seem determined by the condition of time and space in which we are designed to disappear, but also other biological conditions, such as our most primitive desires, could control us. Other main Russell idea is that due to the resistance that we put in front of which we are a product of natural forces, we are a slave of the human faith and the faith in invisible gods created by ourselves. To find a purpose about our existence and ensure it beyond of death, we create invisible things in the visible world or world of facts to make sense of it. We believe in those invisible things, and we grant supreme power to control our actions, or words, or thoughts. The savage, like ourselves, feels the oppression of his impotence before the powers of nature, but having himself nothing that he respects more than power, he is willing to prostrate himself before his gods, without inquiring whether they are worthy of his worship. Said Bertrand about that. Starting from these main ideas, Russell began to work the free man's worship. For the control of nature over mind, Russell indicates that any other species on the earth has the mysterious power of reason. He pointed out, a strange mystery it is that nature has brought for our last child, subject still to her power, but gifted with sight, with knowledge of good and evil, with the capacity of judging all the world of his unthinking mother. In spite of that, the mark and seal of the parental control, man is yet free, during his brief years, to examine, to criticize, to know, and in imagination to create. To put it in other words, only the intellectual faculties allow man to emancipate himself from that total control exercised by the nature over him. Thus, in her essay, Rousseau tried to recognize knowledge and wisdom as the main tools to attain freedom from despair, hopelessness, and fear that every one of us have in front of the imminent destiny to disappear. As he said, to feel those things and know them is to conquer them. To conclude, in his essay, Russell suggests to the modern man that to be completely free man is unattainable. In his opinion, we must understand that we cannot escape from our natural conditions, and also we can know how that supernatural forces save us from our destiny. In this part began the tragedy of the human, which is recognized that the world was not made for us, but it through this acknowledgement and with the help of our insight or creative idealism, the man can build a world for himself and the people around him.